What we're looking at here is an acetone infuser or an acetone bubbler, whichever you prefer, that I'm going to be using to do some brazing with. I got this idea from a HHO torch builder whose channel name is Daniel C 2008, I believe. I'll put a link up for that. But he did this a long time ago and uses it with HHO torches to cool down the flame or make them more compatible with the brazing process, because the HHO flame will heat stainless steel up to blistering temperatures too quickly and destroy the braze joint. So what I'm going to do first is connect this torch up to just the HHO torch alone and kind of get a idea of what the flame looks like with just HHO coming out of here. And then I'm going to hook it up with the acetone. Now the reason why I'm going with the acetone instead of the propane modification that I've been using in the past is because acetone is a lot cheaper. A can of acetone is 32 ounces for like $4. I don't know how much this weighs, but I can tell you it's a lot more than 400 grams. This is $2, so even at 800 grams, there's way much more fuel in this can for the cost. And as you can see, I go through quite a bit of propane. So this test is to determine how much fuel I would actually save using the acetone infuser rather than the propane gas modification that I have videos on. So that's what we're going to do. We're going to do a little test braze and see how well the flame performs on some very thin stainless steel, which is the hardest of all to braze. And another interesting thing that I am wanting to examine is whether or not acetone would react in some favorable way with copper. I don't know if any of you have seen the footage they have on the catalytic copper acetone reaction, where copper will glow to a red hot temperature in the presence of acetone vapors. So that would be cool. So I have a piece of copper here set up to see if it behaves any differently than what one would observe with a propane flame. So that's another thing we'll be testing. So here we go. We're going to test the hydrogen flame first, just for comparison purposes. Okay, for the sake of comparison, we are running at 15 amps AC, about 125 volts, I think. And that's at 1600 watts. So let's check it out. And there it is. It's on the verge of flashback with a nozzle this small. So that's a pretty big flame there. Very hot, would definitely overheat any piece of stainless steel. We are now on bubbling acetone. That's the acetone flame. Catching the camera there. Pretty nice flame. That'll be nice and powerful. Hoping my $600 phone survives this. Very dumb idea. So, it warped the metal, of course, but nonetheless, that was a beautiful bead on this very thin metal. Now, if you've ever tried this before, you'll know how hard it can be to get metal or the braze rod to flow on this. Not easy. Now here's the rod. A propane torch had trouble melting this. Try to get the cord out of the way. So let's see if it's stronger than the propane torch was. Yeah, it's already getting red hot. Definitely more powerful than the propane torch. I'm already melting. And I'll show you a direct comparison of that here in a second. Wow. We're melting it with no problem. I don't know if we're getting some kind of acetone reaction or not. But it does seem to be heating up way quicker. Got a nice big propane flame. Oh yeah, I'm already at flow temperatures. So, there's that. We're now up to 17 amps though, so this thing's running pretty hot. That's about 1900 watts at about 100 degrees. This is still a very impressive torch here. This is a $50 Benzematic TS8000. That color change you see is not the metal wood. That is just the oxidation of the line. Now it's starting to glow. I'm not able to achieve the melt nearly as fast. So it does do the same thing, but I don't know that it did it any faster. It seems like the other torch was quicker. Now, we're going to do a quick comparison of a braze rod sample and this here. Definitely taking longer. The heat's just too spread out. The big blasting flame. Okay. That's kind of blobby. Didn't get as good of a flow. Let's see, this one's definitely had the heat we wanted. Give us a nice good flow. It wasn't such a big flame that it just totally fried the whole plate. See if I might have got more warp out of that. There's that. It seems to help flux pop off sometimes when you do that. So, we were struggling for heat there. And anyone who's ever brazed things before, sometimes you got to get in and you got to get out. You don't have time to hang around and set fire brick on fire. Going back to full power on that. Man, this thing stinks. Better get it lit quick, I can tell you that. It'll have the whole room explosive in no time. Probably very dangerous. So hopefully you can see that. Center screen. Kind of going the wrong way with my rod here. Okay, here we go, and it's flowing. That's a lot of heat. Burn my hand. I think I ran out of flux area there. Yeah, it's a really bad surface from this point on, but nonetheless, that brazed up pretty nice. Okay, so here we are at about 8 amps, 530 watts. This camera isn't quite making out the features of the flame, but it's got a really nice blue inner cone there. Oh yeah, it is flowing. Very weird blue spiral flames going on there. I don't know if you can see that. That is wild. Very detailed little lines in the flame. I've never seen anything like that before. Definitely has enough heat to braze with this little torch with this low of an amperage. So that's with the number 85 spud. That is actually a spud for a gas stove. Things having trouble focusing. Not bad. Turns out I was dead wrong. The small flame's performing quite well. I really wish I had something to get you a good contrast. Oops, I wish I wouldn't have did that. Kind of ruined it. We had it till I pressed that darn button. There we go. Real nice little blue inner cone. Beautiful little flame. Running at about 3 amps. 72 watts. So that's a large soldering iron, basically. I don't really have a small specimen prepared. Just getting that nice and red hot. It didn't scorch the metal, but it did get it red hot, which is good, because sometimes this torch will do that. It'll scorch the metal to where it's black and then it stays black. So that's kind of cool. It's a really neat little flame. I don't know that it's going to have the power to get this big piece of copper red hot. Probably not going to happen. What we need to do is find a small, thin piece of copper. We're still at like 75 watts. I'm interested to see. That's brass. I want to see if there's some kind of copper reaction with this acetone. So here's a specimen here. Maybe the thinner the better. Well, I wouldn't say anything weird is going on, sorry. I like how clean it's leaving the metal. I'm not seeing any of that blackening you get from the propane torch. So this is the smallest tip that I have. I lost the number 2. I think I might have cut it up because it was just so darn small. I didn't see any purpose in it. I could probably turn this down some, but there's 38 watts. So that's a nice little soldering flame right there for 38 watts. You can do a lot of wire joints. Soldering irons are just not a good choice in some cases, because if you've ever done a lot of soldering with a soldering iron, you'd know the tip dissolves after a while. So yeah, that's pretty cool, man. I'm definitely digging this acetone. Looks like I might be losing pressure. Turn it up to where it almost blows it out here. See what type of little needle flame I can get. And that is just too cool. Much better than the propane in my opinion. I'm going to look at the actual thermal energies involved in the combustion of acetone versus propane. I do have videos of the propane gas modification. I'm not going to tamper with that right now. Now that is just too cool. Let's see if we can get you a shot of that. Yeah, that is awesome. That thing ain't playing around. That blackened the metal that time. I did get it really hot. That blue cone is probably super hot. It's going to blow itself out. Got about 500 watts there. See what this little thing can do. Sorry about that. It's melting it. It's out. 500 watts, a little bit much for the number 3 tip. I typically wouldn't run this tip anything over 200 to 300 watts. Still blowing air out like crazy. Another issue to point out, one of the main reasons that I believe the acetone infusion process is worth the time is if you've never used HHO to solder before and you plan to, you'll find that any area you contact the flame with will no longer receive solder. So you have a tendency to learn how to heat up the metal around the joint and not the joint itself. But with the acetone or with the propane modification, you are able to contact the entire surface, which makes the soldering process a lot faster and a lot less destructive to parts right next to your work area.